welcome to another session of Career Conversations. I'm always so excited to do this. I just love it. I love having these chats and these conversations. So hi, if you've never met me before, we have not spoken. My name is Mary Gom, and I am the founder of Visibility. I'm a banker by day, a risk manager by day, and I do Visibility at every other point. And so Visibility is an organization that is passionate and working really hard to improve the outcomes for Black women in the marketplace through inspiration, coaching, and community. And one of our pillars is our Visibility Tribe Group. And within that, we basically bring together, Black women into a very safe space so that we can all just share our experiences and support each other as we're going through, what is sometimes a tumultuous journey of career and business. And as part of the initiatives that we run on the Tribe Group, Career Conversations is one of them, where we basically sit with the Black women who are part of our tribe. And through this, we explore careers, we showcase businesses, and really we just celebrate the women who are actually just pushing through despite all of the things that are going on around them and stuff. So this is our session for September. And this September, we have Mimi Gom, a longtime friend of mine for a while. And so I'll let Mimi introduce herself, but just as a little bit of a background, myself and Mimi met 14 years ago, maybe something like that. We interned at pretty much around the same time when we started our careers. And we definitely don't speak very often, but we have brand recognition. So when I know someone says her name, I'm like, I know Mimi. And if someone says my name, she's like, oh, I know Mary. Like, so it's a mutual respect for each other in the world of careers, and you kind of follow ourselves. So I know as she's gone through her transitions, I've been quite aware. And one thing has been really, really cool with Mimi, like at several points when I've either wanted something or needed some help with something, she's just been like, yeah, I'm just going to jump in and do it. So I've always appreciated that. So I am really excited for this conversation, and hopefully we can all glean in. So welcome, Mimi. Yay!
Thank you, Mary. She's a superstar. I don't mind her brand recognition. I'm always like, Mary.
Welcome. So I want to get you out of here really quickly. So we're gonna have a quick fireside chat, and then then we'll take some questions as they come up. But let's start from the beginning, as they say. So can you give us a little quick introduction, about yourself? And if possible, if you were to pick 3 words that describe you, what would those be?
Wow, 3 words that describe me. The first thing that came to mind was faith-filled, dynamic, and considerate.
Oh, that's a nice one. That's one I haven't heard ever, I don't think. I like faith-filled, I like dynamic, and considerate is a beautiful one to have for sure. Okay, great. Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah, so tell us a little about yourself, what you do and all that good stuff.
Excellent. So first of all, thanks for inviting me and having me on. I really do feel privileged. And at first I thought, me? What am I going to say?
Oh, yeah.
I've seen one or two of the fireside chats that you've had, and they've always been quite inspiring for me, first of all, to see what strong Black women are doing out there and to showcase it in the way that you do, so it's accessible and approachable. And I always thought, wow, those ladies are awesome. So now to be sat here, thank you.
Wow.
And in terms of what I do, who I am, who is Mimi Gom, ne Mimi Ahua. Yes, that was my father's name. I got married. And what I do is pretty much financial planning affiliated with St. James's Place Wealth Management Network. And I run it as my sole practice. So I'm the boss, I'm the founder, I'm the principal partner of my own practice, so to speak. I set the marketing strategy and basically choose which niche of clients I can focus on. So St. James's Place allows me the versatility to do that. But I didn't start off wanting, to be a wealth manager, so to speak. I always knew that wealth creation was something I was passionate about. So from around the age of 16, I identified that I wanted to be involved in economic empowerment, economic development. I wasn't sure how. And I studied various degrees, worked in Barclays private bank before landing where I am today.
Right.
So that's me in a nutshell. Yeah, when I'm not, advising clients financially, I'm a mom of two, and I enjoy, as I mentioned, singing in the choir, and I just I enjoy, I enjoy people. I enjoy advising people, helping people, making a difference.
Okay, great. So you started off, as you mentioned, like you started your career in private wealth. What was that journey like getting into many moons ago? What was that journey like getting your foot through the door? And then what was the point when you said, I need to do this by myself in this format that you do?
Excellent. So the journey starts many moons ago, actually, on our summer internship 14 years ago. Goodness, when you say that,
Right?
14 years ago, summer of 2006, the world was a very different place.
For one.
And I was doing my degree at the LSE, so London School of Economics, further to completing my undergraduate in Canada in economic development. So I came bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, idealistic, save the world type vibe going, to London School of Economics. And it's the kind of school where everybody talked about investment banking, investment banking, investment banking. So I was fortunate to come across SEO London and decided to delve into the world of investment banking. Um, Thinking nice segue to eventually working with the World Bank or the UNDP. And when I actually got into the private sector and got into an investment bank, and I saw the range of opportunities, because you don't know what you don't know. I was aware of the world of development because I have family members who work in that space, but none of my family members were in investment banking. It's not even something that I thought I could do.
Yeah.
But I got into an internship with Lehman Brothers, which was challenging and stimulating. I worked with the real estate and capital markets teams. And I thought, this is awesome, but I think I need to do this more with families and individuals,
Right.
for it to be really meaningful for me and for it to maximize my skill set and my temperament. And so after the summer internship, I applied for wealth management graduate schemes. I applied to HSBC, Barclays, and UBS. And Barclays was the first one to come back to me. In fact, the same day of my interview, they gave me an offer the same day. Yeah, so I liked their directness. I liked their speed, and so I accepted their offer, and then began the journey of becoming a wealth manager. And I've never looked back.
Yeah.
And why I decided to shift into becoming self-employed, running my own practice, was around the time I started my own family. I thought I needed the flexibility, and so almost on cue, I think my daughter's going to come in. But
Apart from crying babies, else was difficult making the transition to self-employed. And actually, can you explain the whole thing about having your own practice but underneath a brand as St. James's Place, and how that works versus just going it on your own?
Yeah, so the compliance costs are real, and so one of the things I thought is, rather than reinventing the wheel, it was researching who is out there doing financial planning, doing wealth management, and doing it well. I would say one of the challenges was finding a brand that I thought, okay, this works. They're credible enough, they're large enough, yet they still have a family feel. And so when I was doing my research, that's when I came across St. James's, and I thought, this would work well. They are very UK centric. And so after working with like the Barclays banks and the Standard banks, I thought, how will I pivot to being UK centric?
Yeah.
And they had something called the St. James's Place Academy, which is essentially for people considering a career transition to becoming financial planners and advisors. So it's a 6-month foundation where they enable you to do a diploma in financial planning, but they also train you with regard to how St. James's Place approaches advice processes and doing it well. There are any number of networks out there. And the reason I chose St. James's Place was I felt that their ethos, their approach, their history, it's quite an entrepreneurial brand, even though they are FTSE listed now. They've been going for less than 30 years. And in 30 years, they've grown assets under management to 120 billion, depending on the forex rate on any given day. And so also it for me, when I was researching the power of networks, I reached out to my networks. I got opinions from different people. And so at the time I was pregnant with Michael.
Oh,
and
wow.
I jumped on the academy and I did all the exams in 5 months.
So as you are now, you've done the academy, but then it gets real. You're now in the marketplace. How did you go about getting like your first client? And in particular, like how did you fancy your chances around being a financial advisor who's a woman, who's a Black woman? The statistics actually about Black wealth managers or even personal finance managers actually very, very, very low.
Honestly, I wasn't worried about that, and maybe I should have been.
But you're not, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so it was partly the sense of, okay, coming from a private banking background, I thought, at least I know the skill set of advising clients. I may not have advised them on these specific products, but it was actually more challenging than I calculated.
Right.
And the reasons for the challenges were severalfold. So in terms of network and niche of clients, St. James's Place, or it's down to you. It's your decision. No one will tell you your clients must be from this niche or that. So I had this business plan that I drafted as part of my strategy and my interview process. And a lot of it was relying on sort of my personal network of friends and professional connections and contacts to say, basically, this is what I'm doing now. Let me know how I can support you in your career transitions, in your family, in your goals and what you want to achieve. Right. And a lot of it was through word of mouth and referrals. So I'm quite involved in my church network. I'm quite involved in the borough where I live, the Chamber of Commerce. I've attended a few of the events. And what I realized quickly was that it's not necessarily the quantity of networking that you do, it's actually the quality. And once you also deliver quality service, word of mouth will go ahead of you. And then it's down to you actually choosing who you want to be clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me, the challenge stemmed from the fact that I enjoy spending time with people. I enjoy coaching people, and I'd spend a lot of time coaching as opposed to advising and selling.
Right.
And you have to have the balance, because if people aren't taking your advice, resulting in a closure of business, then you're not getting paid. You know? And so at the beginning, it was finding the balance of speaking to the right people at the right time. And then the secondary challenge is where you go from being an employee to being self-employed. As an employee with, the corporates I worked with previously, you had an assistant, you had, back office support in a different way. The model here is it's your business. We'll set up some systems and some support, but it's at your discretion, So are you going to get yourself an administrator? Are you going to get yourself a report writer, a paraplanner to help you write reports? All at your cost. All at your cost, So so it's like from employee where you didn't have to worry about a lot of these things, now filing your own HMRC taxes, paying invoices out to your third-party suppliers, sourcing those suppliers. I think I was really, really privileged because I have had young professionals approach me for work experience, and I've mentored at least 3 or 4.
Right.
I say 3 or 4 because you can gauge the seriousness, and I've mentored a few who have now gone on to get other roles in other organizations, which I'm really pleased to do. But that takes time as well. So it was finding the right support. So people think, is it the clients that were hard to source? No, I found that there are opportunities galore, because if you look at the statistics for personal advice, aside from the niche focused on Black women, if you look at the number of financial advisors across the UK relative to the population, there's a great need.
Interesting.
There's a great need from my perspective.
And is that just because people tend to go it alone, or they don't know the value of having that advice?
I think a lot of people tend to go it alone. They think we can just do it. It's basic, it's straightforward, it's simple. And so they don't put the value on the advice until it's almost too late,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I remember one of the things that also drove me passionately was thinking, as as a graduate, I almost wish I sat down with a financial advisor as a graduate,
Yes.
and people are like, oh no, I need to pay off my student debt first, I need to do this. I'm like, actually, just having that clarity, that initial consultation meeting, and it's like one meeting a year at a minimum,
Yeah.
can give you such focus and such clarity and such awareness of the options that are available. And this is, even with Google and YouTube, there's only so much that you can glean from those resources. There's no substitute from sitting face to face with another experienced human being who's professionally qualified in that space.
Yeah.
You can get some basic advice from and this is something that we as women don't do as much. You can glean from your peers so much, but people are really shy about talking about money. You know, um, if I was to ask, if I was to do a poll and ask, the ladies on this platform, how many people actually know, aside from, like, do your parents know your salary? Does your partner, if you have one, do they know your savings? Do they know the level of detail that your financial planner or advisor would go to with you to make sure, okay, this is what you have, this is what it means, this is how it fits into your objectives. Um, there's no one who has those detailed conversations, so it's hard finding people to have that level of transparency with. And so I think, the value of financial advice, no matter what stage of life you're in, is really powerful and can save you a lot of stress and a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
In the long run, as a financial advisor, the basic metric we look at is what your career, family, lifestyle, property aspirations are, and how that fits into what I call your wheel of wealth, and what is enough. And is your wheel of wealth achieving what you need it to? And for me, the wheel of wealth is thinking around your protection needs. God forbid, if the worst were to happen, are you well protected?
Yeah.
Your investment needs, are we investing in a way that's aligned with you achieving your objectives? And then your estate planning needs. Once this is all done, who do you want to leave it to? In what type of structure? What does it make sense? Do you have a will in place? So your wealth pie, and what turns it into a wheel is the spoke on taxes. So understanding your tax position, your income tax band, your tax liability, and understanding how to make the most use of the allowances that the UK government provides.
As you think through your clients and stuff, and in your process of advising clients, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen, whether obvious or not, that women in particular should be very cautious about as they think about their money?
List is long.
Oh wow, okay.
List is long. Okay. Because of time. First biggest mistake I see is when people get married, they close the blinkers and they say husband should just manage the finances. And then if things don't work out, it's like, oh, what happened to our money? Especially where we as women are starting to make more now. So I think that's one of the things, you have to be engaged in the decision making process for your finances. That's one. It's not a common one in the African community, but it's one that I've seen. Not protecting your assets. So sometimes, we have complimentary prenuptial. Not to say it will happen.
Okay.
We have the paperwork for that. Not writing a will. Not writing a will, which means that it becomes ambiguous and it can lead to acrimonious decisions in the family as a result.
But if you're a single person, like, maybe the question is, at what stage in your life should you be thinking about writing a will? And if, for example, you don't have kids or you're not married or whatever, like, do you care? Should you care? I guess it's probably the point.
It depends. So it depends on the individual and how complex the family dynamics are. Because if you don't decide, the queen will decide for you, and it may not go in the direction that you want it to. So I say as soon as you own any form of assets, having a clear line of succession is key. And you plan for today and you hope to live to 100. And the statistics are most of us will probably live to 100. So what I typically recommend is write a cursory basic will and review it every 5 years as your circumstances change. Once you get married, any will that you wrote before marriage is nullified anyway. So you have to update it. Yeah, yeah. So, but then if you get divorced, it's not automatically updated, which is why Barry White's first wife inherited everything, and his third wife, who he was currently married to, got zip. So he never updated his will to reflect the change in his circumstances. So the reason I mention this is because you'd probably expect me to say something around investing in the wrong thing. But I thought, let me clear the air around estate planning first, because in light of the dispensation we find ourselves, I think a lot more people are aware of their mortality because of COVID. And it's a simple thing to do. They're online platforms, they're really competent solicitors. And instances where you don't have a property, which is often the most valuable asset that's passed on, it's just making sure that your nomination forms are up to date with your workplace pension schemes and your death in service schemes, making sure that your nomination forms are up to date. It's a really simple thing to do. And then in terms of who next of kin is as well. So I'd say it all sort of stems in around sort of how you approach decisions with whoever your partner is, and making sure that there's transparency, accountability. One common mistake I've seen is when it comes to debt, getting into debt for the wrong reasons.
Right.
So, we can have a more consumer-led mentality. And this is both men and women. I'll see somebody who's paying £500 a month to drive Beamer X something, but you still have a credit card that you're paying 25% interest on. And I would have to realign and say, okay, it's great to have these things, but let's look at your overall cash flow and let's look at what this is going to mean in 5, 10, 15, 20 years for you. So this credit card that you're carrying at 25% is going to cost you this much. So let's prioritize paying down any high interest debt, or doing balance transfers. You get that done. So that's a common mistake I've seen, especially where you get into a young career and it's like you're flash, you want to carry all the latest things and everybody's offering you cheap credit, so it seems. And so you can fall easily into the credit trap where you bought not necessarily value adding assets that regenerate cash flow and income for you, but sort of as soon as you drive it off the show lot, it's lost a third of its value. So prioritizing the wrong things and not thinking necessarily about, okay, how does this add value, not just from a feel-good materialistic perspective, but is this going to add money to my pocket in the long run? What other, so those two. Investing sporadically. So once you've cleared the debt, you're like, I'm being responsible, I'm saving. That's another one. Just saving in cash, just leaving assets just in pure cash. And women are a lot more risk averse. And so they would rather just say, okay, you know what, I have a healthy cash balance. And so they won't take the investment risk. And then when the investment risk is taken, it's sort of taken haphazardly without understanding of the process. So it's like, okay, I'll just buy a few stocks and just sit on it, but I'm not really sure what I did, why I did, and, worrying about it. But it's actually, this is the system. I want to consistently put money away. I want to consistently put it in a diversified way. Not looking for the next big bang your lights out investment. That's a thing like, oh, Mimi, should I buy cryptocurrency? I'm like, crypto. Before we talk about cryptocurrency, let's review who you are as a person. When this cryptocurrency drops 40%, are you going to be calling me at 2 a.m.? Not we don't advise on cryptocurrency, by the way, as an organization, but it's one of those questions that I say you have to know what your financial personality is, and then you have to invest accordingly. And you have to know what your objective is. Is this your I want to retire at 50 fund? Is this I want to pay for my children's tuition? is this: I want to fund a philanthropic venture in my 50s, and I want this money to go towards that. There's so many things, and that will then inform the investment strategy that we pursue. But it's the sense of, I know I should be doing something, but I'm not sure what, so I'll just try this, and I'll try that, and I'll try this, and then it's a mess. And then doing it without understanding the tax wrapper that you've done it in. So worst case scenario, you invested in something and it did really well, but suddenly HMRC hits you with a tax bill of 28%, and you're like, but why? And it's because not understanding the wrappers and the rules and the allowances of the UK government. You've invested in a way, whether it's in property or equities or any other asset class, you've invested in a way that exposed you unnecessarily. So those are some of the common mistakes I've seen. But there's and you learn trial and error. So I hope that covered that. So
for the rest of it, call Mimi. So
true.
So when we're prepping for this, so you had mentioned, like, in terms of your journey, your 3 key learnings, and I wanted to delve a little bit into those, were around, relationships, understanding the politics of where you are, and your statement that it's not about just getting the job done, and also, like, your point on self-belief. And so I think, as we are, well, first of all, coming off a month of talking about confidence and self-belief, and now in a month where we're talking about transitions, I wanted to get you to just share those 3 things with the women on the chat, and how you've gained those in your journey, and how it's helping you today.
Yeah. So for me, it was the sense of, when I think about my early career as a graduate, sometimes you just think, if I put my head down and do the task well, I'll be seen and I'll excel. But relationships and cultivating relationships is so key, both with your line manager, so horizontal, vertical, understanding what your peers are doing, understanding the landscape of the organization, understanding the wider landscape of the industry. So even now, for example, today I was on the phone with one of my old managers, and we were just catching up. He's currently in New York, and he's retired now, but I try and make a mental note to call him at least once a year. Just because his insight is invaluable, even now. And then interns that came through Barclays when I worked there, there's like 3 or 4 that I'm still in touch with now, who are in different phases of their career. And I feel like I learn as much from interns. It just keeps your perspective fresh, and so never look down on anybody, but also equally never be intimidated by anybody. The gentleman I was speaking to earlier was a managing director at several different firms, not just one, but he makes himself so accessible and so approachable. I don't take his counsel for granted or lightly, but I've also engaged with him in such a way that he's willing to give him his time. So I would say, that the higher up you go in the organization, the more it is about your relationships and your ability to navigate those. And that's where the politics and the political terrain comes in. One of my weaknesses, and probably why I thought, okay, I'm going to steer towards entrepreneurism, so I'm my own boss, is I have a tendency to tell people where to put it, and not in the most tactful way. So don't be like that. I tried.
Woman, I think.
And the challenge with that is sometimes, and I think one of the challenges I had with one of my later managers was he was not used to a female talking back to him, let alone a black younger female. And the politics and the nuances of that in that particular organization were very real. And sometimes when to be true to yourself, when to cut your losses and move on. And for me in that instance, the politics at play in the wider organization, I calculated, should I fight this? Is this worth the effort? And I thought, no. I regret it sometimes because ultimately, because I didn't speak, other people may have suffered because
Right.
ultimately that individual was shifted from the organization. So is that challenge of when to stand and fight, how to do it in a tactful way. And that's where the power of mentors can come into play because you run things by them. How should I approach this? How should I say this? What are the kind of words that I should use? And because I went through that experience myself, when other people call me and ask me, I say, come, let's see, let's talk. You know? And it's using the pain and the process that we've been through to empower others. So I'd say it's about believing in yourself. Yes, it's about leveraging your relationships, knowing who your sponsors and your allies are in the organization, knowing who your mentors are, and really, really not taking, especially not taking sponsors for granted. And sponsors can be clients. I had clients who believed so much in me, and I had management who believed so much in me. So I'm really grateful for that and acknowledge that. So it's more than just getting the work done, putting your head down, getting work done. But it's looking up and acknowledging whose stars is aligned with yours. By you rising, they rise as well. So who's coming behind you, but also how you can support those ahead of you, so that as a whole, the company that you're with, the organization that you're with, progresses and does better. So those are very key. Self belief, I think, at the early part of the career was for me a challenge.
Right.
And SEO London invested a lot in training and coaching, and I remember being really daunted in day one at Lehman Brothers. Like,
Oh gosh, I remember that. I remember that Lehman Brothers event.
I remember being so daunted, and then they were having a really crazy morning that morning, so my team actually forgot to come down and collect me. And as a fresh intern, it was like, oh my gosh, like, you interpret in so many ways. But what I actually found, and it's something that different mentors in my life have said, you have to see yourself as a solution wherever you find yourself.
Oh.
Rather than So I still remember so vividly that first day, sort of feeling sorry for myself that how could they forget me, which I admit now in hindsight was a really self-centered way to think. But if I had really imbibed that mindset of I'm a solution, coming in on the first day and seeing that the team is frantically working, knowing that, oh my goodness, I don't really have the knowledge, but let me have the mindset of service. That mindset of service will always stand you in good stead wherever you work. So servant leadership. It's not to say be a doormat, get stepped on, but it's that aspect of how can I improve where I am? What value am I bringing to the table? What problem am I solving that I've been uniquely formulated to solve? And so if you approach with that self-belief and confidence that, listen, I'm not here by chance. I've been uniquely shaped for this. I may not know everything, but I'm going to learn it, and I'm going to learn it well. I always say the sky is not the limit. It's actually the galaxy. you know,
beyond that.
Beyond that, honestly, like that self belief and it's something that I feel like a lot of, I'll use the baby boomer generation, they had. I think for all of the resources that our generation has, I don't see the same level of self-belief and motivation and drive. And I think it's almost like a caution that comes into play. And for me, as women especially, I'd rather err on the side of arrogance a little bit, um, and just say, you know what, I can do this, I will do this, and I will wow doing it.
Yeah.
I will dazzle. So yeah, self belief is
But what do you do when you do have that self belief, but
Mhm.
you're getting rejections? Like, how do you harness
how,
that
how
or
do you
cope
navigate?
with that?
Yeah, I'll say in everything there's a lesson, right? So I always say rejection is not denial, and or delay is not denial. Just because it doesn't work today, you fail forward. You say, okay, maybe not right time, not right space. And then in terms of reflecting on yourself, say, okay, what could I have done better? Not necessarily, oh, it was my fault, it was all wrong, it didn't work. Not right time, not right space. If there's anything that I could have done better, it's getting that feedback if you can. So if it's like an interview that you've gone for, the landscape is super competitive. You know, it is super competitive. So it doesn't mean necessarily that you're not good enough. It means that the landscape is competitive and that opportunity is earmarked for someone else. So you dust yourself off, yeah, say, okay, what can I take that was constructive feedback from that encounter? I remember when I left the organization that shall not be named, I could have fallen into a funk, but I thought, okay, what are my learns from that? My learns from that are be more tactful when you're dealing with people who are not necessarily as straightforward, you know, and also know what your boundaries are and what is non-negotiable for you. You can't stay in a context where you're being bullied or harassed.
Yeah.
You know, there's a fine line between being corrected in terms of, oh, this you should change this in the presentation, or you should think about this way. So that's constructive criticism vis-a-vis, are you off your rocker? No, 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 no. Nobody in a professional context should speak like that. You know, so for me, it's the sense of take your key learns, dust yourself off, put your lenses back on and say, okay, where's the next opportunity? And no encounter is wasted. No encounter is wasted. You never know down the line how that contact may come in handy. So every organization I've left, I've always maintained communication, because you never know what opportunity you can pass on to them or they can pass on to you as a result of keeping positive communication. Um, I won't go into the nuances of grievance procedures and things like that because that's not what this is about. But there are instances where you will need to stand up and fight for yourself in different ways that may actually even improve the organization because you've highlighted a flaw that needs to be addressed and that will support others. But I found for myself that everyone, like I say, 75% of people want you to succeed because in your success is their success. And I think I heard a quote today that really inspired me. What is the opposite? You know, collaboration vis-a-vis competition, vis-a-vis doing it solo. No man is an island. And especially in wealth management, you have to be able to bring in an accountant if needed, a lawyer. You need to be able to understand the family dynamics of your clients.
Yeah.
And so collaboration is so key. And in this globalized, interconnected, remote working world that we live in, the world is super small. You know, they used to say there's 6 degrees of separation. I think there's only 2 degrees of separation. And so it's really making every encounter count positively.
Oh, Mimi. So okay, this has been awesome. I thought you guys were going to find it valuable just from the perspective of one, just obviously getting to know Mimi. She's one of our tribers. Also transitions, and she's talked quite well about the transition she's made. So whether you think about it as transitions from company to company or transitions into her own practice with St. James's Place, and just all the things that you have to think about, but also the mindset that you need to have in terms of being a solution. So that's the key mindset when you are transitioning. And we got a little bit of money stuff. So I know there's a whole lot of stuff that on money. So I would definitely say, like, this is an introduction to Mimi. So pick up the phone. I'm just going to give her contact details at the end. And get in touch and just have that conversation. I wanted to open it up now for like any questions. So whether it's questions to Mimi and her career or questions about money that she can answer without.
So building your credit score is important. And it's one of those things that you think, okay, once I have a good credit score, I'll be able to get a mortgage in future. I'll be able to, if needed, finance a car, so it is important. But the temptation there is once you have the credit card, knowing what your interest rate is. So any number of institutions would be happy to provide one to you, from your NatWest to your Amexes to your Barclays, and the interest rates will vary. So I'd always say go for the lowest rate interest card or go for one where you earn air miles. but also pay it off. Don't allow that interest to carry, because £1,000 at 25% on a credit card, you would have paid £250 in interest if you're just carrying the balance unnecessarily. So it's a sense of, if I'm going to use it so I'm building up my credit score, then just use it and clear it. Don't carry a balance on it, because your bank savings account is paying you kini, it's paying you 0.5%, and then you're going to be paying 25% on a credit card. You know, it's not a good look. So I just say, weigh the opportunity cost. Go in with a calculated mindset that I'm going to clear it every month, and I'm not going to carry a balance unnecessarily. Or if it's a 0% card, even better. But there are other ways to build your credit score, including making sure you're on the electoral roll. It's a bit harder as a student because you might be changing accommodation regularly, but I would say there's no rush to go out, especially whilst you're still in uni, and get a credit card, because it can be very tempting. If you get one with a lower limit and clear it each month if you can.
I know, Mimi, you touched a little bit on your journey, which was helpful in answering this question, but you can just cover it really quickly again.
Yeah, sure. I mean, in terms of pivoting into wealth management, the qualifications are, getting a level 4 RDR exam. So that can be with any number of institutions like the CISI or with the CII. And so mine was with the CII, Diploma in Financial Planning, and then a supportive organization or network helps as well. I would say going it alone without the prior qualifications and industry sector experience would be challenging, but the firm's always looking for professionals who are willing to consider a career transition, willing to consider doing the exams. I'd say brace yourself initially for a pay cut, especially if you're going the self-employed, affiliated, appointed representative route. But then the career prospects over the long term for people who've been in this industry plus 5 years are actually quite good, in terms of the income that you would make in the long term. But I would say pivoting across, having a mentor for me has been invaluable. Calling others who've done it. So always happy to have a call as well. So if you see my booking page, it's got like a 15-minute call option, and it's not just to talk about wealth management. If you want some specific counsel around, okay, this is what I'm thinking of doing, there are others on the academy who've pivoted from even corporate finance, being CFO of different firms, have come and joined St. James's Place and done the exams and launched their own practice, or joined as advisors who have been mentored underneath certain practices, and they then eventually evolve to buy their own business within that practice. So I would say, for someone who hasn't got the experience, maybe joining as an advisor within an already established existing wealth management practice, doing your exams, cutting your teeth for 2 or 3 years, building momentum to launch your own should you choose to. But it's a fun ride, and it's an amazing, interesting industry. Parts of it are boring, like everything in life. We're always having open evenings as well to talk to people around the academy at St. James's Place, and it's something that I'm a strong proponent of, having gone through it myself, and especially when you're thinking about a career pivot.
But can you do the academy whilst working full time?
No, no. Sadly, no. It has to be something. It's flexible in that now it's done over Zoom and remote, etc. But you have to be available 9:30 to about 4:30, 3 days a week, and then you have the studying alongside. So it's literally a career break. Do the academy and then launch into becoming an advisor or practice. And it's something that people might consider, say, especially in this current economy, if people are on furlough or where it's a natural shift anyway, then it's that thinking of, okay, this is the timing. So it's knowing the timing. If you're, I'd say, shifting from M&A and financial services consulting to financial planning is going to be an interesting shift. It's going to be an interesting shift. And I think preparation is the key. Speaking to people like me, getting an insight, and then planning it over a number of years is key.
Yes, we've covered a lot. Thank you so much, guys. Virtual claps for Mimi. I think she's been amazing. I think she's also shown us flexibility and how like life is happening around you and you just have to just keep it moving. So I think that was really special people to see. Like you just have to just keep doing it. She was super unfazed. I feel the love and the appreciation for spending her 1 hour with us, and now she can go back to her 2 little babies and her family. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for joining another session of Career Conversations. Thank you so much, Mimi, for your time. Ladies, please book yourselves in for a conversation with Mimi, even if it's just to have that check in with your money. Anyway, with that, have a fantastic evening, everyone. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you all for joining. Bye.